Welcome back to Trending Update USA. I'm Steffan, and tonight we're diving into a season that shook women's tennis to its core, a year when talent, pressure, power, and controversy collided in ways few could have predicted. The 2025 WTA season will be remembered not just for trophies lifted and records broken, but for the storm of debate, emotion, and headline-making moments surrounding some of the biggest names in the sport, from Raducanu and Elena Rybakina to Coco Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka. A year that stunned the tennis world and left fans divided, shocked, and constantly talking. The year began with enormous expectations, especially around Raducanu, whose career has remained one of the most closely watched stories in modern tennis. In 2025, Raducanu entered the season determined to silence critics who questioned her consistency and durability. Early results showed promise, but controversy soon followed. Her decision to once again change elements of her coaching and performance team reignited debate about stability versus flexibility. Former players weighed in publicly, pundits argued on television panels, and social media erupted with opinions, some supportive, others brutal. When Raducanu openly addressed the criticism in a candid post-match interview, saying she was learning to trust her instincts over outside noise, the reaction was explosive. Some praised her honesty and maturity, while others accused her of deflecting responsibility. The conversation quickly moved beyond tennis, touching on how young stars are scrutinized, protected, and sometimes overwhelmed by global fame. Raducanu's struggles with scheduling and workload management added another layer to the controversy. After withdrawing from a high-profile tournament citing precautionary reasons, fans questioned whether modern tennis calendars are pushing players too hard or whether expectations for elite athletes have become unforgiving. The WTA found itself in the spotlight as debates grew louder about player welfare, transparency, and communication. Raducanu became an unwilling symbol of a broader issue, representing the thin line between protecting long-term health and satisfying commercial and fan demands in a global sport. Elena Rybakina's 2025 season brought a very different kind of controversy, one rooted in silence rather than spectacle. Known for her calm demeanor and powerful game, Rybakina found herself at the center of discussions about emotional expression, media narratives, and respect for different personalities. Several tense on-court moments, including frosty handshakes and clipped press conference responses, were magnified into supposed conflicts with opponents and officials. Fans and analysts debated whether Rybakina was being unfairly judged for not fitting the traditional mold of a charismatic star. When she skipped multiple media obligations after a controversial umpiring decision, critics accused her of lacking professionalism, while supporters argued she was simply protecting her mental space in an environment that often rewards performative emotion over authenticity. The situation escalated when Rybakina later spoke about feeling misunderstood and boxed into stereotypes. Her comments resonated deeply within the tennis community, especially among players who identify as introverted or reserved. The controversy sparked important conversations about how athletes are portrayed, how narratives are constructed, and whether the sport does enough to accommodate different ways of coping with pressure. In many ways, Rybakina's season highlighted a quieter but equally powerful struggle within elite sports, the right to compete without being forced into a predefined public persona. As the season progressed, Coco Gauff emerged as one of the central figures of 2025, both for her brilliance on court and the intense scrutiny that followed her every move. Already a global star, Gauff entered the year carrying the weight of expectations not just as a champion, but as a voice of her generation. Her candid remarks about scheduling fatigue, ranking pressure, and the mental toll of being constantly compared to legends sparked widespread debate. Some applauded her for speaking honestly about issues many players feel but rarely articulate, while others accused her of complaining despite her success. The controversy reached a peak after a dramatic loss in a major tournament where Gauff's emotional reaction went viral. Clips of her on-court frustrations circulated widely, with critics questioning her composure and supporters pointing out the double standards applied to young women in sports. Gauff later addressed the incident with remarkable clarity, emphasizing that passion should not be mistaken for weakness. Her words resonated far beyond tennis, fueling discussions about mental health, emotional expression, and how society judges female athletes differently from their male counterparts. Gauff's influence extended off the court as well, particularly when she weighed in on issues of fairness, representation, and player voice within the sport. Her willingness to engage in difficult conversations made her a lightning rod for both praise and backlash. Sponsors, fans, and media outlets analyzed every statement, turning her season into a case study of what it means to be a modern sports icon navigating fame, responsibility, and personal growth in real time. If Coco Gauff's controversies centered on voice and visibility, Aryna Sabalenka's 2025 season was defined by intensity, emotion, and moments that left the tennis world stunned. Sabalenka's raw passion has always been part of her identity, but this year it became a focal point of debate. Several high-pressure matches featured explosive reactions, verbal exchanges with her team, and confrontations with umpires that divided opinion. Some fans admired her honesty and fire, seeing it as evidence of how deeply she cares, while others argued that her behavior crossed lines and set a poor example. One particularly dramatic incident involving a disputed call became one of the most replayed moments of the season. Sabalenka's visible frustration, followed by a powerful comeback attempt, encapsulated the duality of her presence on tour. She later spoke openly about the challenges of managing emotions at the highest level, admitting that expectations, scrutiny, and personal standards can become overwhelming. Her vulnerability struck a chord with many, reframing the narrative from controversy to complexity. Sabalenka's relationship with the media also came under scrutiny in 2025. After a tense press conference exchange, discussions erupted about respect, boundaries, and the pressures placed on athletes to be endlessly available and agreeable. Sabalenka's defenders argued that authenticity should be valued over polished soundbites, while critics insisted that professionalism requires restraint. The debate highlighted a growing tension in sports media, where viral moments often overshadow nuanced understanding. What made the 2025 WTA season so compelling was not just individual controversies, but how they intersected to reveal deeper truths about the sport. Raducanu's journey raised questions about youth, expectation, and resilience. Rybakina's experience challenged assumptions about personality and professionalism. Gauff's season underscored the power and burden of having a voice, while Sabalenka's path exposed the fine line between passion and perception. Together, these stories painted a picture of a tour in transition, grappling with modern realities that extend far beyond the baseline. Fans played a significant role in shaping these controversies. Social media amplified every moment, turning matches into global conversations within seconds. Supporters rallied behind their favorites, critics voiced harsh judgments, and narratives shifted rapidly depending on results and reactions. The WTA found itself navigating a complex landscape where engagement is high, but patience is often low. The league's responses to controversies were closely watched, with calls for clearer communication, stronger support systems, and more consistent standards. By the end of the season, one thing was clear: 2025 was not just about who won the most titles, but about how players survived, adapted, and evolved under relentless scrutiny. The controversies that stunned the tennis world ultimately revealed the humanity behind the headlines. They reminded fans that elite athletes are not immune to doubt, frustration, or vulnerability, even as they perform on the sport's biggest stages. As the WTA looks ahead, the lessons of 2025 will linger. Conversations sparked by Raducanu, Rybakina, Gauff, and Sabalenka have already begun shaping how fans, media, and officials think about success, behavior, and well-being in women's tennis. The season challenged old narratives and forced the sport to confront uncomfortable questions, but it also showcased resilience, courage, and growth. And that's why 2025 will be remembered as one of the most talked about years in WTA history, a season when controversies didn't just shock the tennis world, they changed it.